And so much of the film is Carlos trying to get Katie to see the world in his perspective. But what ends up happening is he ends up falling in love with her perspective a little bit as well. So, and Rhiannon was incredibly easy to fall in love with, right? So it was not a very hard acting job in that sense.
First, tell me a little bit about how you feel like your life has prepared you for your latest role.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I was born in Brazil, but my dad was a Canadian diplomat at the time, so we traveled a lot. So Portuguese is my first language, and I learned English when I was about 12 years old. Moved to Chile, finished high school in Miami, but I've spent lots of time living elsewhere. I've lived in Costa Rica, I've lived in India. I've yeah, my passport is pretty full, and I mean, and largely thanks to my parents. There's this when you're sort of an international kid and you go to international school, we call ourselves a third culture kid because we don't necessarily have one identity. We have this like world identity, and you meet other kids that are the same way. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm very grateful to speak three languages, but when you're a kid, you don't. I didn't decide to learn to speak Spanish. It just sort of happened. So yeah, that's kind of a little tidbit of my life.
What was it about Chef Carlos that you identified with most?
So Chef Carlos is Mexican American from Chicago. I'm not particularly a good cook, so definitely not that part. Chef Carlos, there are aspects of me. He's got this joie de vivre. He just loves life and he loves people and he loves getting to know them, and not just at a superficial level. He's one of those people that can just get to know you right away. He lives for companionship. He lives for experiencing life through other people's eyes, and it's not just about the food. It's not just about the places. And so embodying that character was really eye opening. I was like, if I could have a little more Chef Carlos in my life, it would be better.
Well, let's get into a little bit of this love story that unravels. Walk us through this journey.
All right. So Chef Carlos is in Peru. His restaurant opens in about a month, and so he's going to take a bit of a sabbatical before he doesn't see daylight again. Much like in The Bear. That's probably what he's getting himself into. So he's in Peru. One of his best friends from culinary school is there. This girl was basically his emotional support system throughout culinary school. So really close friend of his. And when he runs into her, he also happens to run into her partner's or soon-to-be fiance's twin sister. And it is, cliche to say, a very love at first sight for Carlos, at least, not for Katie. And so much of the film is Carlos trying to get Katie to see the world in his perspective. But what ends up happening is he ends up falling in love with her perspective a little bit as well. So, and Rhiannon was incredibly easy to fall in love with, right? So it was not a very hard acting job in that sense.
And filming in a dream location. I mean, how much magic did that add to the mix?
An incredible amount of magic. It was so Cusco is about like 25,000 feet above sea level. It's really high up, and most people have some kind of symptoms due to the altitude. And mine, I felt great when I got there. I couldn't sleep for the first weekend I was there. I think I slept 6 or 7 hours, but it didn't really matter. I still, even though with very little sleep, the adrenaline and the excitement of being there and shooting on location and having somebody like Rhiannon Fish next to you and in front of you was all very comforting, and you didn't need sleep to enjoy it.
Okay, so what would you say is the most Hallmark moment you've experienced in your real life travels?
When I was young and I was finishing my teaching degree, I decided to go to India in his program, and I got to teach Tibetan children uh, science and a little bit of English. And at night, I remember we went out to dinner one night, and it's this place called Dharamsala. It's very like Indian of the earth, and we go to this bar, and the bar was full of just sort of men, and there was this one girl across the bar. Um, who, our eyes kind of locked, and then I met her, and it was a very Hallmark moment. It was like we were the only two people in the room, and I got to have my own little romance very, very far away from home.
No, you're part of this bigger picture with Passport to Love. Um, I want to talk about, I guess, just a little bit. And given that story, what has travel taught you about love or maybe about yourself?
We we're animals of convenience, right? We get into our routines and we stick to them. And what travel allows you to do is to be an entirely different person, right? So nobody knows you in this place, and generally speaking, you're hopefully comfortable, maybe not, depending. And so it allows you to understand yourself from a different perspective. And love is something that most of us hold pretty sort of close and dear to our hearts: who we love, how we love, when we love. But for one reason or another, when you travel, because you're in love with the place and the food, you're also able to, love yourself a little bit more, or love the person you're traveling with a little bit more, because you're experiencing something new for the first time with them. And so travel and love go hand to hand. They're two ingredients that are generally there.
Okay, so if you could put Chef Carlos into another Hallmark movie or give him his own spinoff, what would it be?
Well, let's just make it, the Anthony Bourdain, Stanley Tucci, Chef Carlos travels the world. And much on the same vein, it's not necessarily just about the food, but who he dines with, how old some of these recipes are, and just the general life behind it. Very, very Anthony Bourdain-like, but let's dial it back a bit for Hallmark, with a little bit of romance always in the air. We don't, maybe the next trip is Carlos and a friend of his who he, is not necessarily him falling in love over and over again. That makes it seem a little bit trite and weird. Maybe Katie can come with him, and now she becomes his uh, manager, and she puts him on a schedule, and it's how are they going to uh, manage the two together? There's definitely some humor in there, a little odd couple humor, if you may.
I want to know what you are most proud of about this project and what you are most excited for audiences to see.
I think the project is a really honest look at Peru, and particularly the Sacred Valley. The writer Julianne Wimbles, the director Colin, the production company really made it a point that the people and the traditions were legitimate, that people were ultimately seen, and that's where kind of like the engine of Chef Carlos comes in, because it was every day it did feel that way on set. It did feel like a labor of love. Certainly under the conditions that we were in, many of the times it needed to be, and hopefully that comes across in the film, in the movie. And because sometimes you hear about some movie sets and things are going awry, but from the get-go, even when things seem to go wrong, everyone kind of had each other's back. And like, I kid you not, when we finished filming and we're saying bye to everyone, there were tears. Like, everyone made these really long-lasting friendships. It kind of felt like you're 16 and you're in summer camp. Are you going to see these people again? I don't know. Hopefully, maybe. So yeah, I think hopefully that translates into the screen, because I did really fall in love with so many people on this journey. Yeah,
If you could describe a Machu Picchu proposal with three emojis, what would they be?
we're gonna pick the emoji of the archaeologist with the archaeology cap, and we're definitely gonna pick a heart emoji, probably with the heart eyes and hearts all around, because it's not just the romance between two people, but twins and friends and parents. And then finally, I have seen an emoji of like a food related one, maybe an empanada there. So we have eat, pray, love. No, something along those lines, but in emoji form.